This is a bit awkward, not because I'm standing in front of a green screen. That's just something new, so if it looks weird, that's the reason why. It's awkward because I'm about to tell you about how I got my dreams shattered. Let's get to it. I'm not going to get into the reasons why my vehicle choice was good or bad, but I'm going to tell you about the story along the way. You see, my goal was to simply get racing. Woohoo! Building a car that looked good for shows, but always had that orientation around speed. You see, when it comes to absolutely everything in my life, I generally do a lot of research. That goes tenfold when I talk about my hobby. I wasn't about to just jump in and race. First of all, safety. Second of all, I didn't want to chase last place. I wanted to be going for the podium, or in best case, having a good time trying to get close to the podium. Well, that takes effort. What I did was start with schools and track days and try and build up confidence around what my skills were like. Then when I got comfortable with the car, I started to check my lap times. And as lap times started to fall, I started to compare them to what other people in my class would also be doing. And in that situation, if we were talking about a race weekend, how would I have done? Would I have won? Would I have come close?
Come on.
I'm trying to relate to you watching as someone who's normal. Yeah, I spend a little more time driving than most, and I like to think that I can drive a little better than most, but I'm by no means the best. There's a long way to go there. I've probably done 4 or 5 different tracks with my car, and definitely over 10 track events, weekends, yada, yada, yada. Does that qualify me to race? No. Does it mean I have some experience? Yes. So it's a little bit easier to kind of get going, and once you find an arena of where you want to race, that's what I did. Here in Ontario, there's pretty much 2 time attack series that everyone knows about. CSCS or OTA. I'm not going to get into that, Google the acronyms yourself. After comparing and seeing what's involved with each class and requirements for tires and safety and whatnot, I decided to pursue OTA. As I said before, with all the research that I like to do, how was I able to make sure that my car would be competitive and reasonable against this car or that car, that price or that modification? You see, it's actually very simple. CASC, which I think stands for the Canadian Auto Sport Club. On that website, you can submit your car for review. The idea is that it gets a points rating, and that determines what class it will be in among a couple of different factors.
Anyway, about the car,
Got my car all modified, picked out the tires that I wanted, put on the spoiler that I deeply regret because it gave me extra points that I don't need. I went to the weight scale and got the actual weight of my car with and without driver, picked up the dyno sheet and submitted that as well. Lo and behold, everything went through and I got a rating. Given the modifications that I gave them, they were able to help me say, well, you know what, your suspension system is actually this. You need to add a few more points because of that and this and that. So that was actually the very first heartbreak I had.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
Because I was planning on being in an SGT3 class, and that's kind of what I was timing myself out for with similar cars, with similar modifications. And by the end of it all, I was put into an SGT2 class. Now that's mainly because of my tires, because they were 100 tread wear and super sticky, which means a lot of points, and unfortunately that bumped me to the next class.
Things are gonna be okay.
So that was already step 1 of partially broken heart, simply because it was putting me against cars that were way out of my league, and I had just bumped into the bottom of that arena. My car is not a Camaro, it is not a Corvette, it is 100% not a Porsche 911, but that was the class I bumped myself into. That wasn't too big of a deal. All I gotta do is just wear out these tires, get some that are a little bit more appropriate for my class, and away we go. I'll have an experience, I'll get an event in, there's no pressure then, looking at the positives rather than the negatives. So that's all science. What about the track? Well, I went recently to Cayuga, Toronto Motorsports Park, for another session. And the idea there was I haven't been to this track in 2 years, at least on track, to be able to see where my lap time has improved. Did I chop down some time with modifications? Was I able to chop down some time as a driver? The day started out not like that. I was slower than before, but by the end of the day I set a personal best. Was that a tearing on fire lap record? No, of course it wasn't. I told you I'm not the best. But thanks for watching. This is the point where you should subscribe. So I set a lap time, and it was good enough to be mid-pack or towards the top of what would have been SGT3, the class that I thought I was going to be in. I'm like, all right, let's get her done. Let's sign up for the event.
Final judge. Thumbs up!
So I go to the Ontario Time Attack website, I choose the event, pretty straightforward, and here we go. Start telling friends, I'm finally racing, because you know what? I'm excited about it. I've always dreamed about racing.
Have you ever had a dream that you could?
Now when I talk about racing, I don't mean against other cars, because that is an excellent factor for danger. I like to drive this car on the road, so I want to take it home. The main thing here is it's against the clock. Racing against the clock was my goal. It's safer. Some say it's easier, some say it's more difficult. From my perspective, it's just the thing that I wanted to try within the competitive environment. Unfortunately, this is where things start to unravel. Shortly after submitting both my registration and what number I want on the side of my car, yada yada, I came back and was contacted by one of the event organizers. They were concerned with the safety of my car. So we went back and forth talking about the legitimacy and safety of the roll bars that are fixed behind my head in the car. Now these are a stock item that BMW said would be safe enough for anyone on the road, but I get that racing is a different kind of thing. So the person representing OTA was very helpful. We went back and forth reviewing different things and trying to find as much information as possible about the roll bars that are behind me in my car. Now they are thick roll bars. There is enough clearance between my head, between the windshield, my helmet, and the roll bars to pass what's called the broomstick rule. The problem is that they are not structurally reinforced for racing. They need to be more like a roll cage, either with a roll member, thicker, welded. Whatever you want to say, they need to be built stronger. Let's just summarize it like that. I've had some people, if you couldn't tell, this is the heartbreaking moment for me.
Let's go over now live to our reporter, Eric Turner, who's at the scene of where everything is now fine.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, the news we're getting from the security services is that everything is fine here and back to normal.
The thing is I've had people ask, well, what about running with the roof up and this and that, and BMW deems it safe for the road and so on and so on. Obviously, they are built for safety, but the track is a different type of exception, and all of these events have to represent themselves in case something goes wrong. I have nothing against anyone at this point because it's all about safety, and everyone was there trying to help me out from OTA. They were very helpful. They came up with suggestions. We know what to do. You know, please come back if you figure out how to do this. Where it becomes extremely heartbreaking for me is the fact that this is now the modification tipping point. Having a roll bar in your car generally means that you cannot get it insured for the street. I can happily say that my car is currently insured for the street and all my modifications are covered, which is already a feat in and of itself for most people. Do I want to risk losing coverage from my provider or having a difficult time finding coverage from someone else just to be able to start racing? Not really. Do I want to spend more money on my car? Yes, of course, I want to keep modifying. I want to make my car cooler all the damn time. But that doesn't make sense for this. I enjoy using my car on the street. Part of it is having the car that walks the line of fast and comfortable to be able to take it somewhere and be like, yeah, I've got a quick car for the street that I enjoy driving. If I weigh out the positives, I could add a roll bar, which stiffens the chassis. It allows me to enter races and is safer overall. It also allows me to get harnesses, different seats. It's kind of a snowball effect for bettering the car, but turning it into an actual race car.
It's got no dents, it's been in no accidents, it's in great condition, and
well, if I'm gonna do that, this goes all the way back to the beginning of this episode, where I said, let's not talk about the car I chose, because I chose it for my reasons back then. What I need to decide now is, do I go out and potentially try and buy a race car, sell this one and buy a different car? What do I do? Does this mean that I can't race? For now, in this series, no, I can't. Does it mean I'm gonna stop using this car? No. Does it mean that I'm not gonna continue to try and race in the future? No, definitely not. I'm a competitive person, and I like to drive myself, do what I enjoy, be safe while I'm doing it. So this is not the end of this story, but I thought I'd bring you along. I don't know how my face looked in terms of brokenheartedness, but let me tell you, when I was told I couldn't do the event, I was very brokenhearted. I appreciate you watching as always. Feedback in the comments would be lovely. And remember, all gas, no brakes.